about Twitter. Let's talk about God bless Elon Musk. See these? God bless the guy who is allowing Nazis and anti-Semitism to perpetrate Twitter. There's been a 66% increase of anti-Semitism on Twitter since Elon Musk set it free. Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. It's not fair to say all conservatives are Nazis. That's preposterous. That's not true. But your Lord and Savior Donald Trump is having tea and dinner with them at Mar-a-Lago. Nick Fuentes right here, who is a picture that is tweeted at me all the time saying Jews are a virus in response to my tweets. Donald Trump's having dinner with him. Nazis at Mar-a-Lago. And so, no, not all Republicans are Nazis, but I got to tell you, Nazis seem really comfortable with Donald Trump. So I have questions about that, Mr. Chairman. Why is that? Why do I get these tweets? Let's talk about Kanye West, right? The chairman of the Judiciary Committee for 3 months praising Kanye West. We love Kanye, right? A Nazi. Clearly now. It took months for that tweet to come down. How come? I mean, these are things I'd love to know. Is it because maybe they're your voters? I mean, they certainly aren't voting for me. I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Langworthy for 5 minutes.
It's been, in its length, nearly 1/4 of the amount of time that Twitter users could not share the link. We are spending almost as much time screaming about this as this was ever a problem. Look, criminal activity is always a concern, but if there is criminal wrongdoing on Hunter Biden's laptop, that is a matter for the FBI and our law enforcement agencies. Today's hearing is merely an exercise in misinformation and disinformation, a free-for-all hellscape. That's what now CEO Elon Musk said Twitter would become if the platform became a place where anyone could say anything with no consequences. It is unbelievable to me that I am quoting Elon Musk, but that is how ridiculous this hearing has become. The Oversight Committee, like Twitter, or any other social media company for that matter, cannot become a free-for-all hellscape where anything goes. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The lady
Chair.
yields back. Thank you.
Oblivious.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Bobert.
As if this
I
is
ask
just
unanimous
about Hunter
consent to
Biden's
submit
laptop.
2
There's 3
documents
million
into the
people
record
watching,
post, both from
bitch.
Twitter.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Ms. Luna for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Roth? Mr. Roth, have you communicated with government officials ever on a platform called Jira? Yes or no? Real quick answer. We're on the clock.
Not
yes
to
or
the
no?
best of my recollection.
Not
no.
to your recollection? Great. If you did, in the event, communicate, who would have had access to this platform?
That's the nature of my confusion.
Okay.
Jira
Did you ever speak to government officials on Jira regarding taking down social media posts?
Again, not to the best of my recollection.
Can you explain to me why the federal government would ever have interest in communicating through Jira, mind you, a private cloud server, with social media companies without oversight to censor American voices? I want to let you know that this is a violation of the First Amendment, and the federal government is colluding with social media companies to censor Americans. Mr. Chairman, I ask for unanimous consent to submit these graphics into record. And Mr. Roth, I'm going to refresh your memory for you. This flowchart behind me.
Ordered.
Thank you, Chair. This flowchart shows the following federal agencies, social media companies, Twitter, leftist nonprofits, and organizations communicating regarding their version of misinformation using Jira, a private cloud server. On this chart, I want to annotate that the Department of Homeland Security, which has the following branches: Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, also known as CISA, Countering Foreign Intelligence Task Force, now known as the Misinfo, Disinfo, and Malinformation, MDM, This was again used against the American people. The Election Partnership Institute, or Election Integrity Partnership, EIP, which includes the following: Stanford Internet Observatory, University of Washington Center for Informed Public, Graphica, and Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab, and potentially, according to what we found on the final report by EIP, the DNC. The Center for Internet Security, CIS, a nonprofit funded by DHS, the National Association of Secretaries of State, also known as NASS, and the National Association of State Election Directors, NASED, and in this case, because there are other social media companies involved, Twitter. What do all of these groups, though, have in common? And I'm going to, again, refresh your memory. They were all communicating on a private cloud server known as Jira. Now, the screenshot behind me, which is an example of one of thousands, shows on November 3rd, 2020, that you, Mr. Roth, a Twitter employee, were exchanging communications on Jira, a private cloud server, with CISA, NASS, NASED, and Alex Stamos, who now works at Stanford and is a former security officer at Facebook, to remove a posting. Do you now remember communicating on a private cloud server to remove a posting? Yes or no?
I wouldn't agree with the characterization.
I don't care if you agree. This is your stuff. Yes or no, did you communicate with a private entity, the government agency, on a private cloud server? Yes or no?
The question was if I
Yes or no?
communicated
Yeah, I'm on time. Yes or no?
Ma'am, I don't believe I can give you a yes or no.
Well,
answer
I'm
to
going
that
to tell
question.
you right now that you did, and we have proof of it. This, ladies and gentlemen, is joint action between the federal government and a private company to censor and violate the First Amendment. This is also known, and I'm so glad that there's many attorneys on this panel, joint state actors. It's highly illegal. You are all engaged in this action, and I want you to know that you will be all held accountable. Ms. Gaddy, are you still on CISA's Cybersecurity Advisory Council? Yes or no?
Yes, I am.
Okay. For those who have said that this is a pointless hearing, and I just want to let you guys all know, we found that Twitter was indeed communicating with the federal government to censor Americans. I'd like to remind you that this was all in place before January 6th. So to say that these mechanisms weren't in place and to make it about January 6th, I want to let you know that you guys were actually in control of all of the content, and clearly we have proof of that. Now, if you don't think that this is important to your constituents and the American people from those saying that this was a pointless hearing, I suggest you find other jobs. Chairman, I yield my time.
Bingo.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Chair,
Yeah, I just want to call to the attention of the chair and members
Mr. Mafulay, yes.
that
you're
we're getting
recognized.
awfully close to witness intimidation, and I would ask the chair to intervene.
Are you kidding
I'm
me?
sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Mr. Mafulay.
I said I would caution all members that we were getting very close to witness intimidation, right on the verge of it, and I would ask that the chair and the ranking member agree how we will
Democrats
proceed
are
from this
such
point
a
on.
fucking
It was
embarrassment.
the threats that were just made.
Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And in follow-up to that, I was
Assuming that they're all
I
on
am
the
curious
wrong
about
side.
the committee's rule or the committee's disposition, accusing witnesses of a crime, discussing arrest, discussing, making these allusions and threats. I want to clarify for the record, what is the committee's policy around threatening a witness?
We have the member decorum.
Oh my God, don't tell me she's like a chairman. Are you fucking kidding me?
And around the rules of decorum, can
Yes.
we agree that threatening a witness comes close to broaching general decorum? It does broach general decorum of the committee?
With all due respect, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, we don't agree that there was any witness threatening.
In threatening, when we discuss arrest, when we discuss a potential arrest of a witness and alluding to a witness or suggestion of a witness committing a crime
She is such a
without
joke.
evidence and without documents being supported to the record.
Can you be more specific?
When
Please
we talk about
don't.
arresting
Oh
a
my
witness,
God.
When we talk about a witness,
She's throwing
insinuating
a
the witness
wrench
is
in the
lying without
works.
documentation. I fear that this constitutes threatening a witness, and that will broach.
How
the
many
rules of
times is she going
decorum
to
of this
repeat the
case.
same sentence?
And I'd like to ask that we request witnesses be treated with respect. Thank you.
Fuck you.
Appreciate that, and I will remind everyone of the member decorum and witness decorum to treat everyone with respect. I thank you, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez. Do you have anything to add?
No, thank you. I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I have a separate point of order I just wanted to raise, which is it seems as if several members now seem to have access to some information from Twitter that people on our side don't have, and I would just hope that anybody who's communicated directly with Twitter or received any information relating to witnesses who has that, who plans to use it, distribute it to the committee in advance. That's okay.
I think that most of the evidence is coming from. I think a lot of the quotes and emails are on the laptop.
Well, I think that at least one member
On the
indicated
the Twitter files that Elon Musk.
God, you're so
one member had
stupid.
indicated
And the
that she had received information directly from Twitter.
Okay. Chair recognizes Mr.
Yeah, Jira. Was that on Hunter Biden's laptop?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to our witnesses, thank you for being with us today. I know it has been a long one. Just so that we're clear, and to stage my next line of questioning, in December 2019, we've established that the FBI subpoenaed Hunter Biden's laptop from a computer store owner. And then we've established that nearly a year later, in October 2020, the Hunter Biden laptop story is published by the New York Post. Within hours, Twitter and other social media companies began limiting the distribution of the Hunter Biden story.
The crisis posed by the power.
And Mr. Roth, you were told there would likely be a hack and leak operation occurring in October. Is that correct?
I believe the FBI has objected to the word likely or expected, but we certainly discussed that possibility with them.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Bush for 5 minutes.
St. Louis and I are here today to talk about the crisis posed by the power of private companies that operate social media platforms. Republicans are holding this hearing because of their ridiculous, politically motivated obsession with Hunter Biden. This is a distraction from their inability, again, to govern, and it hides the shared concerns raised by Republicans and Democrats alike about the vast power, impunity, and lack of accountability of social media platforms. There are so many examples of these companies responding inadequately or inappropriately in crisis that we have come to understand misconduct as the norm for social media giants and not an aberration. Social media played a key role in fanning the flames of violence on January 6th, on that attack on our U.S. Capitol. The impact has spread all over the world. Last fall, after Reuters reported that disinformation about Chile's proposed constitutional referendum was traveling 3 times faster on social media platforms than facts, several members of this committee wrote to Meta, Twitter, and TikTok, demanding further action to reduce the dissemination, reduce the lies, reduce the hate. They did nothing. Ms. Gaddy, you were at Twitter on January 6th and asked repeatedly for a retrospective meeting to discuss what happened in the lead up to that day. Management told you, quote, it wasn't a priority for the company. Why was it not a priority for Twitter to learn lessons from January 6th?
I don't believe you're referring to me. Apologies. I'm the chief legal officer. I did not make that statement.
Okay, Ms. Navaroli.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Sure. On January 6th, you were at Twitter and asked repeatedly for a retrospective meeting to discuss what happened in the lead up to that day. Management told you, quote, it wasn't a priority for that company. Why was it not a priority for Twitter to learn the lessons from January 6th?
I can't speak to leadership's motivations or why it would not have been a priority for them. What I can say is myself and individual members of my team repeatedly asked that we do a retrospective to understand not just what happened on January 6th, but leading into January 8th and the permanent suspension of the president.
And what can you say is Twitter's top priority?
I can't speak to Twitter's top priority at this moment. I can say that, again, my team's responsibility was to balance free expression and safety and to ensure the safety and lack of harm for people on the ground.
Thank you. Twitter's top priority seems to be to maximize its profit. The people on this panel were among the top experts moderating content for equity and safety at Twitter, and your concerns were consistently steamrolled by executives pursuing profit. We know this situation must change, but I would argue that the structure of these corporations ensures this malpractice will continue. These social media companies have shown themselves unfit to maintain a digital public square with almost universal usage and vast power. Their purpose is not to facilitate healthy, fact-based discourse. It is to aggressively pursue profit for their billionaire executives and shareholders. Even when they make a good decision about removing a post or a user, it is only to make a profit. This existential problem will not be solved by asking these for-profit corporations to tweak their approach around the edges. We need to re-envision what the internet can be. Digital platforms, including social media, are here to stay, but we need to make sure that they operate for the public good and not the private interests. We need to invest in better alternatives to big tech, and we need to establish public ownership and control to ensure these platforms serve everyone fairly. Thank you, and I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry for 5 minutes.
Thank the chairman. I thank the witnesses. It's been a long day. Mr. Roth, going back to your statement Mr. Edwards talked about, I want to just kind of revisit that a little bit, where it was communicated to you, at least per your statement, by the FBI that there was expected hack and dump or hack and leak operations, and that they would occur before the election, and that these, at the bottom here, the meetings that were rumored, in those meetings were rumored that the hack and leak operation would involve Hunter Biden. Subsequent to that, well, first of all, who told you that? Was that, did you get that? Can you tell us where you got that information, if you know?
The subject of a possible hack and leak was raised by a number of representatives of the FBI.
Was one of them Mr. Chan? Elvis Chan?
Yes, Mr. Chan was a part of it.
So are you familiar with the fact that in his testimony in November of 2022 that he says we did not see any similar competing intrusions to what happened in 2016? And of course, you had been talking to intelligence agencies and law enforcement agencies for some time, and they were referring to the 2016 hack and dump operation. Are you familiar that he said that subsequent to you saying this? That they didn't have any evidence?
I was not aware of
Okay,
Mr.
that's
Chan's
fair.
deposition.
That's fair.
No.
Did they ever give you any evidence of the hack and dump operation that happened in 2016? And what I think I'm referring to is the allegation that the Clinton campaign, the DNC server was hacked, and that information was spread about through WikiLeaks or other information channels. Did they ever give you any evidence of that occurrence during these discussions?
That information was made public by the intelligence community in the Mueller report and by the Senate Intelligence.
Yeah, evidence. Did they ever give you evidence? Because as far as we know, CrowdStrike looked at the servers. Did the FBI ever look at the servers from the DNC, to your knowledge?
I think that would be a question better directed at the
Fair
FBI.
enough, but the point is you never saw any evidence, right? You're just taking it on, and I'm not blaming you, because a lot of people want to believe the FBI. I've always wanted to believe the FBI. The question is, did they ever give you any evidence to believe that? Because they're making the case. They're making the case that there's a hack and leak operation coming, and it's going to be about Hunter Biden right before the election. Did they ever give you any evidence?
It didn't come up. There was
Okay, yeah, I didn't figure it did. And then you all set up a secret channel between Twitter and the FBI. Who did that from the FBI? Was that Roth? Or, you're Roth. Was that Elvis? I'm sorry.
Mr. Chan was a part of that work, yes.
Yes, he was part of that. And so you set up, and you actually set up a war room as well, right?
I believe the FBI operated a war
Okay,
room.
fair enough.
I didn't
And you
join
participated in that?
No, sir, I did not.
You did not. Did Twitter participate in it?
I believe Twitter may have sent a representative.
Okay, fair enough. And then you did this table talk exercise about Hunter Biden and about a leak about Hunter Biden that would come out right before the election, essentially 10 days, and that happened in September, right before the election. And you participated in that, right?
Yes, I did.
Who facilitated that exercise? I know the Aspen Institute, but who facilitated the exercise proper? Was anybody from a government agency facilitating any part of that? Were they involved in the discussions during the exercise?
No, I don't believe so, no.
So they were just spectators?
I wasn't aware that they were spectators either, but I don't recall exactly who was there.
I know you don't recall who was there. Then who facilitated it? Do you recall that?
My recollection is that the event was facilitated by Garrett Graff, who was a member of the Aspen Institute and Aspen Digital.
All right. Do you find it odd now, after the fact, and I know you've already testified here, that you don't see, to Mr. Sessions, that you didn't see that you were misled or potentially duped? It sure seems highly coincidental. Would you agree? It at least seems highly coincidental. Knowing that the FBI had the laptop, that the FBI set up the war room and the channel and told you, per your statement, that this was going to happen, do you find it highly coincidental that it actually happened and it was Hunter Biden at all?
I want to be clear that my statement to the FEC does not suggest that the FBI told me it would involve Hunter Biden. That's a popular reading of that declaration, but it was not my intent. I think there is a coincidence there, and I really can't speak as to how that came about.
Yeah, it's really coincidental. One last question. Did the CIA or the other governmental agency ever ask Twitter to look at something that violated Twitter's policy?
I don't recall specific outreach by the CIA specifically.
Other government agency is what it was called in the Twitter files.
Yes, Twitter regularly received reports from government requesting review under our rules.
So the other government agency, that one, did they ever request information regarding violations of Twitter's policies? The CIA.
Gentlemen, time's expired, but please answer the question.
I thank the chairman.
Again, I don't recall specific contact from the CIA, no.
Chair recognizes Mr. Burleson for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've sat here listening. I'm glad to be last in rank. I get to listen to all the testimony. And what's become clear to me, there are a few things, and that is that the censorship efforts of the big tech, the intelligence community, and the media were all working in concert to affect the 2020 election. I find it unbelievably ironic, and I hope others do too, see the irony that people who were so concerned and hell-bent and worried about the interference of outside groups on the 2016 election became willing participants to interfere in the following presidential election. These three groups worked together, and it's clear, worked hand in hand to hide the truth from the American people. The fact that the FBI had the Hunter Biden laptop, heck, it was in their possession for a year before the election, is appalling. But that didn't stop them from spreading a lie and a bogus claim about it being Russian interference again. And you know, it's clear to me why they reached out to you, because they knew you would buy the lie. They knew.
That's why I got to fight this crap. Regardless of how you feel about me, regardless of how anybody in this damn world feels about me, I'm going to fight this goddamn white man, whether you like it or not. I believe in the death and destruction of white people, each and every one of them. Don't give a damn if the little bastard just came out of his mama's womb 3 seconds ago. Kill them all. Every last one of them. Don't spare the babies.